My heart broke when I found out that my wife had cheated on me twice and was planning to do it again. I read about all the feelings that a person goes through when they find out that their marriage, which they thought was strong and safe, was actually a lie. I felt like my feelings were too much like how Hurricane Katrina filled New Orleans. As soon as my dam broke, the water rushed in and ate up everything that my wife and I were. Yes, it made me almost cry. When the feelings stopped pouring out, my marriage was nothing like it used to be. There was no longer any trust, respect, admiration, caring, sexual desire, or love. Have you seen pictures of what the storm left behind? You can't go back to a place you remember and start to rebuild it the way it was. There's nothing but destruction, and it's so much that you give up and leave. That's what I'd like to do with my spouse. I would have given up and left. You shouldn't have tried to save anything. When my wife killed us, she turned our lives upside down until they were nothing but a bunch of waste. It was over. I fought with Susie. It wasn't a one-time fight. We had them all the time as married people do. But this one turned out very badly. Susie tried to get me to change how our living room looks. She said the furniture was old and out of style. She was sick of it and wanted to redo the room and get new furniture. There was no way I was going to spend that much money on new furniture, so I made it very clear that the furniture wasn't old, it was only 2 years old. She told me over and over that she was bored and wanted something new. When I said, "I guess you're bored with me too, huh?" I probably made a mistake and made things worse. "You're tired of me, so you want to sleep with someone else? Why are you so unhappy with what you have?" "Well, maybe I should go cheat on you then," she said back in an angry tone. "You might understand what you have and what you could lose." Of course, I didn't let that go without responding. I yelled, "Well, Susie, you decide what you want out of life and just go after it. But don't think I'll be here waiting for you when you get back." Then she said something that really annoyed me. "I probably should have married Phil instead of you. Maybe he wouldn't have been such a cheap jerk as you." That didn't go over well at all. It was like I yelled at her, "Go sleep with him. I don't want to hear his name again, and no matter what you say or do, you're not getting new furniture. The talk is over." I quickly left the house and drove to the club to have a few beers. I had to take a break from being mad before I could talk to her again. I had always had the most competition from Phil. In our neighborhood, he was the coolest kid. He was lucky with everything he touched except my wife. He touched her years ago, but she was in love and married me, not him. During the short time that she and I were apart, they met a few times. He had his eye on her and almost got her, but not quite. I did get married to her. At work, I was putting in a lot of effort and making a good living. More than decent, in fact. Phil was looking at a project that was making him money in the background. Having been in business for a long time and being honest and working hard had helped my image grow. But everyone else around me thought Phil was an author and a good person. He never had to show what he was made of. Was I envious of how well his life was going? I wasn't envious of his business job, no. I learned as a child to be honest, dependable, and work hard. I also learned that I should never be jealous of someone else's success. But when it came to Susie, I was hurt. No, I was jealous of him. I will always remember that she dated him and that he touched her. After about 2 hours, at around 9 o'clock at night, my cell phone rang. The number I saw was my home phone. Because I was still pretty angry and had been drinking a few beers, I chose to leave the call on voicemail instead of talking to my wife at this point. I was afraid I might say something mean that I would later regret. After some time, I heard her message. "Larry, I called to say I'm sorry for what I said earlier. Still, I knew it wasn't enough for you to answer the phone. You had to know it was me since you weren't going to be home for a while. I'm going to go out by myself for a while. I'll see you soon." It wasn't enough at all. After our fight, I was just beginning to calm down, but now I was mad again. I went to get another beer and drank it all in a few minutes. Then I looked for her. I looked for her car in every bar parking lot in town but couldn't find it. Finally, I thought she might have gone out with a friend, so I went to her best friend Patty's house and saw that her car was parked in front of the house. I knocked on the front door. Dave, Patty's husband, came to the door after a minute and asked, "How are you doing, Larry?" "I think you and Susie got into a fight today." "They're not here. They decided to go out to the bars a little tonight," Dave said. "Well, Dave, I didn't see Susie's car at the bars, so I thought she might be here with Patty. Could you tell me what kind of car your wife drives? I need to find them. She is going on a trip tonight. He also said, I think they were going to start at Bachelor's and come back here in the end. I got out of the car and went right to Bachelor's. Sure enough, Patty's excursion was parked there. After my beer, I thought it might be best to sit in the car for a while and get sober before we had another drink. I almost went right in and met Susie, but I decided against it because I was still a little tipsy. They came out a little after 11 p.m., got in Patty's car and drove out of the parking lot. I kept my distance and watched them. As David said, they came to the downhill bar and went inside. I sat in the parking lot once more and watched what was going on. I knew they would be going to the next place soon, and I was right. At exactly 12 o'clock, they drove to what I thought would be their last stop before going back. When midnight came, Patty left the hotel, got in her car, and drove off. It was the bar in the hotel. What the hell is this? It was something I asked myself. Just how bad would Susie be if she stayed here? Was she going to do something stupid? I had to find out. I took out my team's baseball cap and t-shirt from the trunk and put them on to hide myself. I wasn't completely sober yet, so my cover wasn't great. The shirt had my name on it, you see. I knew it was better than having no cover at all because I didn't think anyone would notice it that much. After a few minutes, I sneaked into the bar and found a quiet place to watch what was going on. That's when I saw Phil and Susie. She was with Phil, yes. As far away from the door as they could get, they were sitting at a table against the back wall of the bar. It looked like there was an open seat right behind Susie, so I moved in very carefully. I shouldn't have been worried, though, because they were talking so much that they wouldn't have heard the water buffalo get into that space. I could hear everything they were saying from where I was sitting, except for a few times when he must have leaned in to kiss her and whispered something. "Thanks for coming, Phil," she wrote. "No problem," Phil answered. "I love it when you and Larry fight," she said. "Your breakup was 7 years ago. I've had a lot of fun with you before and twice more since you got married. Today, I'm more than happy to give you another night of payback. I wish you two fought more often." "Well," she said, "you know I love him so much, but I can't help it when he turns me off like he did tonight. I need to get back at him just so he doesn't win." It hit me as I listened to this conversation that she had cheated on me twice in the 6 years we had been married and was going to do it again tonight. This is how I felt when I began telling this story. She said many times that she loved me very much, but what she did showed that she didn't really mean it. Phil to get back at me, or as she put it, to keep me from winning. That's not love. It's something selfish and careless that made all the changes I talked about. This talk has broken up my love in me, whether it was right or wrong. I'm not going to listen if you say I'm stupid. Things are the way they are, and I knew I no longer loved her. I almost cried because I had lost something so important, but it was already over. A while later, I heard him ask, "So, Susie, are you ready?" I was wondering how long it would be before they went to the room. I could almost see her smile. I knew she would be there because I remembered the things she told him with a smirk. They were lucky that they got up and went to the lifts. I was already ready to kill. I might have been lucky because I think I could have done a lot of harm to their health. A short time later, I went into the lobby with them. I asked the servant to call Phil Major's room because I wasn't sure what floor they were on. Before he picked up the phone, it rang 3 times. I asked in a slurred voice, "Is this room 312? "No, it's not 312, he said. "Why the hell are you calling that number at this time?" And hung up. When he picked up the phone, I told him, "Well, I thought it was 312. Please tell me if you're not telling the truth. Because it's 312. Aren't you stupid drunk jerk?" He threw the phone away and said, "This isn't number 32. It's number 422. And if you call here again, I'll have the manager call the police." Anyway, who's calling me a dumb bass bastard now? I believe the stupid jerk is the one who just told his husband, who is angry and dangerous, the room number where he and his wife are going to sleep. Who do you think is the stupid jerk? After taking the lift to the 4th floor, I walked down the hall to room 422 and turned left. I stood outside the door and listened until I could tell that they were busy, and then I knocked. He yelled, "Well, what the, might she?" And I liked it because I knew I was about to ruin his party. He couldn't see me because I moved away from the peephole. When he opened the door, I hit it so hard that the security chain broke off the door jamb, and the door swung open. My beautiful cheating wife was lying on the bed, as naked as the day she was born. She screamed and her face turned white as I walked into the room. She almost passed out, that's for sure. "Oh my God, no! Oh God, oh God, oh God!" Phil finally got over being shocked when he broke into the room and yelled at me, "Larry, get your ass out of my room. I'm going to call the police. Do you remember what I said about the stupid affair?" Okay, I hit him in the solar plexus with one well-placed blow. He fell down and didn't move for a few minutes. He wasn't bothering me anymore. "Susie, you liar and cheater. I know everything about it. I know everything because I heard you at the bar. You should not bother going home tonight. That would be a big mistake. Larry, please let me go home. It doesn't mean anything to me. I can explain. I love you so much." "Oh, no. You got it. Don't go home. That would be the second worst thing you could ever do. You can take that as a threat because things are not going to go well for you." I left the room by turning around. I was shocked at how calm I was. A few minutes ago I wanted to kill both of them, but I was very controlled when I only punched the stupid jerk once. I know I talked badly to her, but things could have been a lot worse. After getting to my car, I sat there for a while to try to cool down even more. I also chose to wait a little while longer to see if the cops would show up or if Susie would leave with Phil. Phil left the hotel, got in his car, and drove off after about 15 minutes. Patty came back a short time after he left, and Susie got out of the house and into her car. At least I was glad they didn't stay in the hotel room after I left to have sex. No, it wouldn't have fixed what was wrong. Instead, it would have made things worse, or fed the fire.
That made me think of something. I went to bed when I got home. The caller ID showed that it was Patty, but I have no idea what time it was. Larry, I know you're upset about Susie and don't want her to come home, but I wanted to call you and tell you that she's staying with Dave and me, so you don't have to worry about her. I was no longer going to worry about Patty. I no longer care about her. Also, you didn't need to wake me up. When is it? Laris, it's 3 a.m., and you can't act like you don't care. Susie loves you, and I know you love her too. She's here crying her eyes out because she did something so stupid tonight. She wants you to forgive her, Patty. She's not allowed to go home. Ask her if she was this stupid the other 2 times she slept with Phil before tonight. Oh no, God. I guess she didn't know about the other time Susie cheated on me with that, Patty said after I hung up the phone. I'm lucky that I don't get bad hangovers, and I also stopped drinking early in the evening. I was up and moving by 8 in the morning, even though I was very tired. By 10 I was ready to have a talk with Susie. It was Susie's choice to come home, so I called Patty at home and told her so. A short time later, she pulled up while I was standing in the driveway. They followed her to our house, and I'm sure they were there to make sure I didn't hurt her in any way. That's how Susie looked when she got out of her car. Larry, what is that pile in our front yard? Susie, it's anything that makes you think of me. It's everything you've ever given me and everything I've ever given you. These are all the shots from our dating days and our 6 years of marriage. I can't think of anything left in the house that makes you think of me. And finally this. I even put the old furniture out here so you could go buy new furniture if you wanted to. I held up a picture of our wedding. The picture was on the end table next to my chair, which I walked over to. I walked back to the driveway a few steps and threw a lit match into the trail of gasoline I used to douse everything in. It caught fire, and the memories of me quickly caught on fire. It wasn't long before everything was on fire. It was a living hell. Ashes and burned-out furniture frames were all that was left. It was clear that my wife was shocked when I told Susie, "You win. I heard you say to Phil, I never thought I'd win."
I hope everything was worth it. You can have everything else now that our marriage is over. This marriage doesn't give me anything. I hope I also forget about you. You can talk to my lawyer about the specifics. After a short time, I heard sirens coming from across the street. Soon after, a police car pulled up and 2 officers got out to see what was going on. A few minutes later, the fire service showed up to put out what was left of the fire. The gasoline did its job, and in minutes the pile was reduced to ash and burned debris. "Officers, I'm just setting fire to the remains of the marriage. I'm sorry for the trouble I caused." As you might expect, they arrested me. I looked at Susie and saw that she was crying as they led me to the police car. A doctor checked to see if I was crazy while I was in jail for a few days. Surprisingly, they found that I was still normal, even though I was sad and broken. I think they would have let me go sooner, but they wanted to keep an eye on me for a few days to be sure. Bail was paid, and I went to get my car from the lot outside my office. Everything I wanted to keep was in the car. It was mostly clothes and a few other small things. I went to the closest hotel and booked a room for a few days until I could find a place to rent. After a few weeks, I was fully settled in, and life went on with its normal flow. I put in a plea of yes to all charges and was fined $5,000 plus court costs. It didn't cost much to ruin my broken marriage. Susie fought the divorce and kept calling me on my cell phone to leave voice messages. She begged me to talk to her, to forgive her, and to take her back because it didn't matter to her. When I knew she would be at work, I left her one message on our house phone. I told Susie, "You say it didn't mean anything to you, but it did mean everything to me. Do you get it? It was very important to me." Saying goodbye. She was never heard from again. It did go through, and I gave her everything she asked for. I just wanted to be free of her. When Phil's wife found out about all of this, she left him and really beat him up. It looks like Phil comforted more than just Susie when they were fighting with their husbands. A few weeks after I broke into his hotel room and caught him with his wife, I saw Phil at the same bar. Because he didn't have time to get up and run away, I think I must have shocked him. I put my arm around his shoulder as he sat on a bar stool and told him that I thought he was going to have a bad accident someday if he stayed around town. As soon as his divorce was final, he started selling off what he still owned, and it became clear that he wasn't in the city. Interestingly, not many people really missed him that much. In all honesty, I quietly hoped he would stay in town. From time to time, I see Susie in the street. Every time, she says she's sorry and asks if I'll call her to talk. I just nod and leave. I still haven't called her. No matter what, she keeps asking, "Maybe one day I'll call."